It's 2023 now, and I'm sure you've heard many and countless stories of people who have changed their careers from minimum wage jobs to software engineers in tech, making six figures, all without a computer science degree. Many of these stories you hear happen within the course of a year or even 6 months. In this video, you will hear the raw truth that you may not have heard before about what this journey is really like. In this video, you will hear me be vulnerable about my journey, the range of emotions and battles and journeys that I felt and went through, the range of bad days, doubts, sacrifices, losses, imposter syndrome, to the success, breakthroughs, the great days that I had, and everything in between. You're gonna hear everything about this journey from the bottom of my heart. So hopefully you'll have a more clear idea about what the full scale image and experience looks like when someone wants to transition from a minimum wage worker to a software engineer in the tech industry. Let's dive right into it. Hopefully by the end of this video, you'll have a more clear idea of if you want to pursue this type of career change in your life. So you might be wondering, why am I qualified to speak on this topic? Well, I've actually worked as a janitor at a gym, working minimum wage, and then I've worked as a social worker, still working almost minimum wage, about $12 an hour, to a software engineer at Oracle, and I made this transition successfully without having a computer science degree. I had to learn how to code from scratch without going to a university and spending 4 years learning computer science. Hey everybody, my name is Instructor Rob.
That's not my real name.
I teach people who have no coding background and no computer science degree how to code and what to build so that they are able to get a job as a software developer in the tech industry. I have helped thousands of people learn how to code with no prior experience and successfully get a job as a software developer. And I would like to help you do the same. So you might be wondering, all right, Rob, tell us how it is. Tell it straight. Was it hard? Was it easy? Did you have imposter syndrome? How was keeping your first job? How was the job search process? Do you think I can still do it? Is it too late for me? I'm sure you have many questions, and we're gonna dive into all of that in this video. And if you stick around long enough in this video, somewhere in this video, I will explain the #1 reason people don't get jobs after learning how to code. Let's start off with talking about the minimum wage worker phase of my life. And this was in the past, and I'm no longer the person that I was in the past. So I'm gonna refer to the past version of me as Robito. That means Little Rob in Spanish. So Robito had no money and no skill sets, and all he did was graduate high school. Great, he graduated high school, good job. But now Robito needs to earn some money so that Robito can have some way of paying bills and enjoying life. So what was the first thing Robito decided to do? Well, he found out he could get a job at a gym and get a free gym membership because he worked there. That sounded like an amazing idea, so Robito decided to become a janitor at Lifetime Fitness. If Robito wanted to earn more money, he would just ask for more shifts. Can you imagine earning $7.50 per hour and working 16 hours that day, only to barely earn anything at all? And can you imagine scrubbing toilets for those 16 hours, and each hour you get $7.50? To me, that sounds $7.50 per hour away from slavery. That's what it sounds like. That's why in the minimum wage industry, people call them slave shifts, because they almost feel like slavery because of the lack of money you receive in return for all of your hard work. Eventually, I got very fed up with that job and I quit. Matter of fact, funny story, side story is that the day that I quit was one day when I had wiped some mirrors on the bathroom shelf or something, and then there was a spill in the hallway, and some manager was like, hey, can you clean up the spill? And then I cleaned up the spill, and the manager just came back to me when I was super tired and was like, oh, I see you cleaned up the spill, but it's not good enough. You missed the spot. And I just looked at the manager and I was like, yeah, well, you can clean it up yourself. I quit. So I quit that job and got a new job. I was looking for a new job and I was fortunate enough to find another job pretty quickly. So the next job that I found was as a social worker. This job was not as difficult as scrubbing toilets and cleaning up bathrooms for hours on end. This job was actually really fun. I got to work with individuals who had autism and disabilities and other developmental issues, and I was able to just hang out with them, make sure that they work on their tasks or their homework assignments, or they take their medication on time, or that they get to their activities on time. I played bowling with them. I went to Special Olympics events. It's really cool. Great job, but nonetheless, it was still about $11 an hour. This job also provided me the opportunity to get better with people, be more patient with people, to empathize with people more. So there was some benefits from this minimum wage job that I was able to take away. So during the time while I was working these minimum wage jobs, I was also enrolled in college. I was enrolled in community college, and then I finished off with 2 years at University of Maryland. And in these two colleges, the community college and University of Maryland, I thought that as soon as I graduate, then I will be eligible for much better jobs, a nice salary, vacation time, and career mobility, where I can see a clear path to making a six-figure income and living a good life. I was wrong. All that happened was I had more money that I owed, college degrees are expensive, and when I was applying to jobs with my bachelor's degree in public health science, nobody cared. Honestly, nobody cared. All the job applications would ghost me. I would see a bunch of skills listed down where I didn't have any of those skills. And also, for any of the jobs relevant to my field of study of public health science, they all required some master's degree or some higher education beyond a bachelor's degree or some experience of years of experience already working in the industry of public health science in order to even be accepted for an interview. So I was fed up with the process. I thought it was a complete scam, which I still kind of believe to this day. And it really did not help set me up for success in my career with career mobility that I wanted. So I decided to learn how to code. That's right. I just decided to learn how to code. Why? Well, because I started to hear countless stories of people in those situations where they have no skills that are marketable. They don't know how to code. They didn't take a computer science degree. They learned how to code without any of that. Lots of people didn't even have a bachelor's degree. All they had was a high school diploma, and they learned how to code and got jobs as software developers, making six figures in the industry. I wanted some of that pie too. So I decided to make the same transition for myself and learn how to code. At the time, I knew that there were several different routes that I could take in order to learn how to code. I could take the self-learning or self-taught route, where I just use resources from the World Wide Web and find out exactly which resource I need to use in which order to learn how to code and have no mentors and just guide myself. I decided that that was not for me. That route, I did not feel confident at all because I really knew nothing at all about this transition. So I did not take that route. Another route that was available was coding bootcamp. Coding bootcamps were great options because I thought, okay, here's a structured program that claims to teach you every single aspect of coding that you need to know in order to be job ready for your first job as a software developer. And you'll learn all of this within 6 months. Plus, you're likely to find a job within that year. That sounded a lot more appealing to me, so I decided to enroll in a coding bootcamp. So great, I decided I wanted to go to a coding bootcamp. But one problem, it costs like $16,000 just to enroll and complete the bootcamp, and there was no guarantee that you would get a job. At least for the bootcamp that I applied to. There are many other coding bootcamps out there where they will teach you how to code and everything you need to know in order to get a job, and they won't ask you for any money until you get hired. I wanted to go to one of those, but I lived too far away from those locations, and at the time, I didn't want to do remote working because this is way before COVID. So the boot camp that I enrolled in required me to pay up front, and I didn't have money at the time. And I will admit, I was very lucky and fortunate that I had parents who were able to help me with that and pay for my coding boot camp. Had I not had that support, my plan was to enroll in a coding boot camp part-time and work part-time and use my part-time income to pay for my coding boot camp experience. There were other options available to me as well, such as enrolling to a coding boot camp where I didn't have to pay any money up front until I got hired. But those boot camps were located either really far away from me, or they required you to pay an extreme amount of money after you get hired in your first job. So I decided not to take those other routes as well. So then the next phase of my life, being a student at a coding boot camp. Now let's talk about that. So I enrolled into the coding boot camp and I had no other coding experience at all. I had nothing at all. I just knew how to use a computer basics. I just knew how to right click or left click, scroll up and down, go to web pages, find out the latest basketball news, watch YouTube videos, open up Microsoft Word. Oh, I knew a keyboard shortcut, Control-C to copy and Control-V to paste, because that's all I did during college. I was just copying and pasting. So there I am at the coding boot camp, completely not ready for what was about to come. The coding boot camp I enrolled in was a full-time coding boot camp, so it required full-time hours. And fun fact for anyone that's thinking of enrolling in a coding boot camp, full-time hours in a coding boot camp is not 40 hours a week. It's anywhere from 60 to 80 hours a week. That's what full-time really is in a coding boot camp. So in that type of environment, in an environment with immersive learning means you're spending 60 to 80 hours per week learning how to code. That is your whole life. Your whole life is optimized and built around learning to code and improving your coding skill sets as fast as possible. That was a very, very painful journey. It's not for everybody. There were many, many days where I wanted to cry, and there were many more days where I actually did cry. There were days where I felt like an imposter. I was wondering, why is everyone done with their assignments and their projects and I'm still struggling with this concept? I was comparing myself with others. I would take longer to understand certain concepts, so I felt like I was stupid. I felt like my brain just didn't work. I started to doubt myself. I started to doubt my intelligence. I was behind in my assignments. There was assignments that were due that I wasn't able to complete on time. Some lectures, I didn't even know what was going on in some of those lectures because I was so behind that I was still focused on material from the previous week, trying to understand that. I almost failed a coding boot camp. I almost failed. The course that I almost failed was Python. I almost failed out of the coding boot camp because I was so behind. Luckily, there was some plan available for students who were really behind where they could retake one course. And I had to retake the Python course because I just completely failed it and I wasn't able to complete it at all, and it was very difficult for me. I would come in day after day knowing that I had to put in 60 hours to 80 hours per week. So I would wake up at 5 in the morning. I would be at the coding boot camp by 6 in the morning. I would be coding 6 a.m. all the way to 7 p.m. I would bring some lunch and I would have dinner at home. The whole day, I would just be learning at a pace where I felt like I was going to be really behind. And I was learning a lot of stuff to learn. It was very uncomfortable. Really wanted to give up, really wanted to cry. Depression started to kick in. I hadn't talked to my friends in a while. I hadn't talked to any people that I enjoy hanging out with. I wasn't hanging out with friends. I had no time to hang out with friends. I barely even had time to take care of my own health and fitness. And sometimes I would just go for a walk and that was my exercise for the day. I was really feeling like life is too hard and I'm too stupid and I am not able to learn this stuff and that this won't work for me and it was a big waste of money and other people are smarter, and my destiny is just to have minimum wage, low income jobs and have a life full of suffering. So I figured, why continue if I had to do that? So I had those thoughts too. It was a very sad moment in my life, and I really struggled heavily. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. No matter how you feel, no matter how difficult it gets, there's always a step forward that we can take. There's always the next small step that we can take in the right direction. And I was very fortunate that I listened to a lot of motivational talks and self-development, Tony Robbins, Eric Thomas, lots of influential, inspirational people who would feed me inspirational and motivational thoughts and ideas to continue moving forward no matter how hard things get. And I did that. I grit my teeth and I made it work. And I did that every single day, day in and day out. I kept taking the right step forward. Eventually, I was able to complete Python. Eventually, I was able to complete the JavaScript stack. Eventually, I was able to graduate from the coding bootcamp. Still feeling like a complete imposter, but I was able to graduate the bootcamp. So I was like, okay, great. I graduated the bootcamp. I didn't think I was going to make it that far, but I somehow did. But now I'm thinking I still feel completely not ready. I feel like a complete imposter. I don't know why anyone would hire me. I barely know how to make an application, and I barely completed this coding bootcamp. So after 6 months of being in a coding bootcamp and going through this journey, I started applying to jobs. Now, before I get into what it was like applying to jobs after a coding bootcamp, let's recap the main topics that I had to make sure to understand and learn, the main skill sets that I needed to have in order to even be job ready. So, whether you take a coding bootcamp or whether you are self-taught, you will need to learn the following things in order to be job ready. First, you will need to know the basic syntax or the fundamental rules of coding, the fundamental pieces of coding. And those fundamental pieces you'll learn in any coding course that you'll find anywhere online related to any language that you wanted to learn how to code in. We recommend starting with either JavaScript or Python as your first coding language. And in your first coding language, you'll have to learn the fundamentals, such as variables, for loops, conditional statements, functions, files, importing and exporting files. And there are more fundamental concepts to learn that I probably have not said here, but you will learn any of these concepts and all these concepts in any fundamental beginner's course for a coding language. Next, after you learn the fundamentals of coding, you are ready to learn how to use something called a framework that will help you to organize your code. And the framework comes with a bunch of pre-written code that other developers have already built that will help you to build software applications. Think of a framework as just some tool that allows you to write more code on top of that tool, and you'll write code that will work with that tool in order to make an actual application that people can use. And all applications have these 4 major features: the ability to create something, the ability to view things, or read, we call it read, or you can say view things, the ability to delete things, and the ability to update things. This is called CRUD. Create, read, update, delete. So every application you can think of right now, whether it's a $1 trillion application like Amazon, $1 trillion company, or whether it's a random student's portfolio project, it's gonna need to have those features where it's an application where you can create some new data, you can update the data, you can delete the data, or you can view the data. For example, in Facebook, there's data on you and your posts. So when you log in, well, before you even log in, you have to register. When you register for Facebook, that's creating someone new. You're creating a new account. So that's a creating feature, the feature to create something new. You're creating a new account. And then let's say you're registered and you log in, you see your news feed. That's the read part of CRUD. C-R-U-D, create, read, update, delete. So read stands for being able to view information. So you will be able to view information of your friends' posts or of the posts that you have uploaded. You'll be able to see that once you're logged in. Update. So update would be if I wanted to edit my profile picture and update my profile picture. Or if there was a post that someone made and I liked it, now that post has been updated to have one more like. Or if I wanted to create something new, I can create a new post. I can upload a new picture. That's create. I can view all the pictures that I've uploaded. That's read. I can delete some pictures that I uploaded by accident where I don't look as good as I wanted to for social media. And that's the delete feature, right? Those are the CRUD features in Facebook. So you're gonna need to learn how to use a framework to build applications that have CRUD functionality. And you can build any type of application you want. You can build a finance tracker, you can build a video game, you can build a social media app, you can build an e-commerce website, you can build anything you want. Then, once you're able to build these applications, you want to make sure that these applications are connected to an actual database, and that also these applications have a nice looking front end. A front end is basically what the end user of your application is going to see. So for example, if I go on YouTube right now, the web page for YouTube is what I'm going to see. That's the front end. So you'll need to know how to make things look pretty on the front end. Then you'll also need to know how to connect everything to a database so that the data can persist over a long period of time. For example, I can still see the videos that I have liked from 2 years ago on YouTube. I can see posts that I have made from 10 years ago on Facebook. The data can persist. So once you're able to do that, where you have a front end and a database layer all connected, that's a full stack application. So building full stack applications is a big part of being job ready. Next, you'll also want to be able to solve word problems and puzzles using code. So these may not be actual applications you're building that are full stack applications that we think of as a typical application where it's a website or an app on the phone. They may not be applications like that, but they are word problems that are given some data and you have to work with that data to solve for certain requirements of the problem. For example, let's say I gave you a list of people and their locations that they live. And the word problem is, show me the location that has the most amount of seniors, people that are over 65 years old. Given this data set, write some code that will show me the top 3 cities that have the largest population of 65-year-olds and older. That's a word problem. But these types of problems can be solved using code. If you give your program some data set and you have to write some code to solve for that particular problem, you're problem solving. That's called an algorithm. So you want to practice also being good at problem solving in general with your coding language that you want to apply for. And lastly, now that you know how to build full stack applications and how to solve problems, now you can build some full stack applications that solve problems. You can marry those two concepts together. For example, maybe if you have an application that you build where people can post their content, kind of like Facebook. People can just post some content. Okay, one problem that you can solve is, can we sort the content by date, the most recent posts? Or can I only see the posts from people who I'm friends with? Or can I only see the posts, instead of seeing all the posts of all the people on the application, can I only see the posts of people who are parents or people who are in college? How can I make my application so that it has these different features so that whatever data the application holds, I can manipulate that data so that it solves different types of problems. Those projects are going to be put onto what you're going to call your portfolio. And there's a whole different video or a whole different topic that we can talk about when it comes to building a good portfolio. But you're going to want to build a nice portfolio of full stack applications that solve some common problems like sorting or filtering or different types of features that you might see in common applications. Now that you're job ready with a portfolio and projects in your portfolio that solves different types of problems and your projects look pretty, now what? Now it's time to apply to jobs. Let's talk about the job search process. When you are ready to apply to jobs, once again, make sure you have a marketable portfolio with full stack projects. Make sure you're able to solve coding problems, which are called algorithms. And I'll share some resources in the description below on where you can solve these coding problems and practice your coding skills. Next, make sure your resume is on point. There are many resources out there on the web that will help you to structure your resume in a good format. You want to make sure your resume is able to get through those automatic robot resume readers. Then lastly, you have to apply. Applying to a job is a full-time job itself. You're applying to jobs every single day now, and you don't stop until you get a job. Now, as I promised earlier in the video, that I will tell you the number one reason that people don't get jobs after learning how to code, it's this. They stop applying. That's it. They just stop applying. And now if you want to know the number two reason people don't get jobs, this actually is the reason that people will stop applying in the first place. People stop applying once they feel convinced that they're not good enough. That's when people stop applying to jobs. And the number one way to fail in this journey is to stop applying to jobs. So what can we do to prevent ourselves from losing our confidence to apply to jobs? What can we do to make sure that we maintain a certain level of confidence in ourselves to go from one failure to the next with no loss of enthusiasm? Winston Churchill said this quote, "Success is the ability to go from one failure to the next with no loss of enthusiasm." So how can we have success in our job search process where we keep getting denied or we don't even get back a response and we apply, no response, rejection, not good enough, no response, rejection, interview, failed interview, no job yet, apply. How do we keep this going? One way to keep ourselves going in this job search process is to continue coding. That's right. You're not just going to continue to apply, you're also going to continue coding, continue building, continue learning, continue practicing. Because once you continue learning, building, and practicing, your confidence is going to continue to incrementally increase. Even if it's gradually, just a little bit, it'll just increase here, it'll increase a little bit there, increase. You're increasing your confidence and your skill sets. Then at some point, you're going to start to feel entitled to a job in coding. You're going to start to feel completely deserving of having a job in the industry because of how much you've been leveling up your coding skills as you're applying to jobs. So level up your coding skills and keep applying. And if you ever get to a point where you want to stop applying, then continue leveling up your coding skills so that you can re-bolster up your confidence in yourself and in your skill sets so that you feel absolutely certain that you are worthy of a role and you continue to apply. Just keep applying. Even if you don't feel worthy of that role, keep applying. And throughout this journey, you will have imposter syndrome where you feel like you are not good enough. You feel like there's something wrong with you. You feel like you don't bring anything to the table. And you also feel like, why would anyone hire me? Why would anyone want me on this team? There's going to be moments where you're going to feel this imposter syndrome. It's normal. It's completely natural to feel these feelings. I want you to focus on taking the next step forward regardless of how you feel. Have faith. Have faith in the universe. Have faith in your journey. Have faith in your hard work and have faith in who you are, that you are capable and that you are enough and that you can keep moving forward and take the right action and make these compound gains in your skill sets, confidence, and your marketability. After about 3 to 4 months of applying, and leveling up my coding skills, I finally was able to land a job as a software developer at a small company called CollaboraLink Technologies. And I worked there for about 4 months. And for those 4 months, and you might be wondering, okay, you only worked there 4 months. Well, another company recruited me, a company you may have heard of called Oracle. They recruited me within the 4 months of me working at this first job because jobs are like dating. When you're single, you might not get as much interest. But when you're in a relationship, then everyone is interested in you. Same thing with jobs. When you are looking for a job, you might feel like no one wants you. But as soon as you have a job, you're going to get a bunch of recruiters reaching out to you because you have a job to try to steal you from that company that you're currently working at to the new company. So that's what happened with me. And I was recruited by Oracle, and then I was eventually working as an engineer at Oracle. So I went from janitor to engineer at Oracle. And during that process, there was a lot of imposter syndrome. And in your first job, there will be imposter syndrome. What you're gonna do is you're gonna continue leveling up during that job, except the good thing is you start to get paid now. And if you feel like an imposter, you can continue to level up your skill sets even outside of work. You can continue putting in the boot camp hours, or you can continue putting in the 60 hours per week. And if you do that, you will continue to improve your skill sets and your confidence, and you will start to do better at your tasks that are asked of you, and you will start to feel better about yourself. Also, if you have many questions to ask, if you get stuck on certain problems, or if you have issues with certain code and you're not able to fix it, you can ask for help. In your first job as a developer, the company and your team doesn't expect you to know everything. They don't expect you to make an immediate impact right away. They expect you to be very coachable, trainable, and for you to listen to instructions. So if you do that and work hard, you'll be okay. Just trust that. And there you have it. That was my full journey, and now I'm working as a software development instructor at a coding boot camp, teaching people how to do the same. Stay tuned for more videos just like this, where I will explain everything I know to help you make the career transition from wherever you're currently at right now to an engineer in the tech industry. So stay tuned, and if you found this video helpful, please like this video for the YouTube algorithm and write a comment on what other topics you'd want me to cover more, and please hit the subscribe button so that you will always see my videos whenever I release them. Thank you so much, and hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.